Okay, here is the engine compartment of the 72. It also has a light here. A lot of cars don't bother with that anymore, but it's a nice feature, and I don't know that it illuminates a lot, but if you're stranded on the side of the road, you take anything you can get for a light. And I installed this overflow for the radiator. Mounted it right here on that bulkhead. That's a good thing to have because you have a visual check of how much coolant you have. That's the windshield washer reservoir. Fan shroud, that's the new compressor that I got 5 years ago. And there we have the valve covers that I got at the flea market, 351 Cleveland. And the labels there are reproduction labels. All these labels here, except for that one orange one in the back. That is a new windshield wiper motor. I had to get that. The windshield wipers just quit. And so it was either that or the switch. And I had a switch in reserve also. So in case it was the switch, I was all set for that. The windshield washers, you can see the hose attached there, and I see something that needs to be remedied. This little thing has come out of its retainer there. Let's see if that holds it. Okay. Now, something pretty useful here is this cowling here. This had to all be rebuilt on the inside because I can show you from this part over here. I added that little screen underneath because what happens is debris gets in there, and that screening helps to prevent that. We have problems with oak leaves here, and the oak leaves would find their way into that cowling very easily. And then you would have a problem with all that debris settling inside those chambers, and it caused a rust out situation. So when I got the car, water would pour right into the passenger side. It would just come right through that intake there, and right there were holes there, and essentially poured right into the car. So what they had to do is they had to cut the firewall there, which you would never know now, and replace all the bad metal. So that's essentially all redone. They have kits to do that for the first generation Mustang, but to the best of my knowledge, no kit is available for the 71 through 73, so that had to all be hand fabricated, which was pretty costly. The windshield wipers. These have two actions. You can see there's a bottom sector right here, and then there's the main sector, and over on the other side there's just the one sector. These wipers, the linkage, you just cannot get this arm, the wiper arm itself. You cannot get. You get the blade, no problem. And you can see I have a different blade there because this windshield is pretty curvy, and that has the kind of traction it needs to wipe as much of the windshield area as you're going to get. This one has a regular blade on it. But these wiper arms are endangered species because they are not made in reproduction that I know of. Alright, let's see what else is here. The suspension stuff had been replaced before I got the car. I put a new alternator on it, and a new ignition system, essentially. That's solid state, so there's no checking of points or anything like that anymore. New coil, and the battery tray was essentially almost not there. It's totally rusted out. So got a new one of those, and this whole section here, there's a patch piece that can be bought, which I got, and just welded into place. So this is a battery. It's in there as it should be, tied down. The only thing missing here is this little piece here that was rusted through. It should have a hole over here, so this helps to hold it in place, but it catches a little bit of the side there, so I figured, that's close enough. I'm always amazed at how little support there is for batteries on a lot of cars. And really, you don't want a battery full of acid flying around at a collision. Not a good idea. So, and that grill, as I say, is new. Brand new grill. Another problem area for this car was the headlight buckets. They don't make them in reproduction. So again, you have to scavenge to find that, and without that, the headlights are kind of useless because they can't be aimed properly and they're a mess. But everything is fine now. These are halogen headlamps, and at the time, this is definitely an upgrade over what was original equipment, which was just plain sealed beam headlamps. Here's that little piece there is connector for the driving lights. I did a lot of try to keep the wiring as nice as I could. They're new ignition wires. And right away I see a problem here. The hose for the PVC has come out of its little socket here, which we can't have. There we go. It doesn't fit in there very tightly, so you have to make sure it's seated. That'll be alright. Okay. If these hoses aren't hooked up to that carburetor right, this thing will not idle, I guarantee you. You'll have run-on and everything else if you don't have that hose over there to that PVC valve. If that falls off, you go to stop the engine and it just will diesel right on. So you got to make sure that's connected up. Okay, so that's the evaporator that was on the car when I got it. I had it taken off and eventually got the new compressor, and it turns out that the replacement in a matter of 4 years or so got clogged and caused me air conditioning problems. So fortunately I kept the old one and there was nothing wrong with it, so that's the original one that's been put back in. That's the new length of hose. That hose blew up with the clogged condenser spewing air conditioning refrigerant all over. So, and that's a new dryer. Whenever you open up the air conditioning system, you ought to put on a new dryer to help get the moisture out of the system. So that pretty much tells the tale. They did a nice job of painting the under hood when I got the car painted too. So I'm going to close her down. You can't keep the birds away from the car. See, there's all kinds of bird stuff on the car here. Not a defect in the paint, just in the birds. They're nice to hear. I mean, they're beautiful to hear, but the problem is when you leave the car sitting out, it gets stumped on. But I hope that answers your questions and gives you a rough idea of, oh, and by the way, the mirrors. I got them repainted, and I got a spare set of mirrors in case anything ever happens. They're fairly vulnerable. They sit, on the side of the car, so I have another set ready to go, painted in case anything happens to them. So, oh, new antenna also. And I think that's pretty much it for the car. And I can tell you about the transmission. I might as well tell you about the FMX transmission. I had a transmission leak, and not much, just some, and it drove everybody crazy to figure it out. And looks like what it is, it's not the gaskets or not the kickdown servo, but and all those were replaced, believe me. But it looks like there's a hole above the kickdown, the vacuum servo, which they use when they manufacture the FMX transmission to insert the parking pawl into the transmission. That's the thing that holds the car in park. And a little sealer went over that. Well, over time, that sealer evidently wears away. So there's a little dribble from there, and it's nothing to pay. I can see it, evidence of it on the drip tray, but it's not a severe enough situation. They put some stuff on there that helped, some sealer, but it's rough to reach. So at some point, I'll probably have that dealt with again. But at this point, it's nothing that I'm concerned about. So that's the story of the Mustang. I got it about 5 years ago on eBay. Hope you enjoy.